Fantastic. All right, so first question is, use a feeling word to describe how you're feeling today, right? In this moment, as you're showing up to the call, how are we feeling? Okay, so then the second question that I want you to answer is, when you look at the last month, right? I can't type and talk at the same time, so let me get my life together. Between now and the last time that I saw you all, I want you to, again, use one or two feeling words to describe how you might articulate the last 30 days. So it's always nice to understand the context in which someone is coming to the call, right? Sometimes we're overwhelmed and tired and exhausted, and other times we are pumped and motivated and all the things. And so it's helpful to know, here's where I'm at today. Here's where I've been at since the last time I saw you. Okay, I see some busy. I really want you to use feeling words. Now I'm gonna get on y'all a little bit, okay? When you describe how you're feeling today, and when you describe how you're the last 30 days, I want you to use feeling words. Okay, so overwhelmed, powerful. When you answer the questions, will you just put one or two in front of it so I know which one you're answering? You don't have to retype it, but just for future reference, I'm always going to start with a couple questions to get us going. Okay, so here's the last question I'm going to ask. So these mindset calls are designed to be Q&A, right? They're designed to be what you need in the moment, right? What is coming up for you in the last few weeks, right? So it's always helpful when you come to the call with questions. Obviously, I'll have something, right, that I want to talk about, but I want it to be relevant to what's happening right now. So my third question, so you can put a 3 in front of it, and you don't really have to put a 3 because it's a whole thing, but is I want you to drop some questions in the chat, right? When you think about what's the one thing that I would love to walk away with today, right? When you think about what kinds of things you've been struggling with, or challenges that are mindset-y, right? I would love for you to drop those in the chat. Accomplished, grateful, overwhelmed, really the last 12 to 14 years. Okay.
Michelle, would you repeat that, please?
Sure. So what I'm asking you is to drop your questions in the chat. And when I say questions, I want you to think about what would be really helpful to you right now. If we could talk through blank, right? If I better understood how to manage this, right? Here's what's happening in my world that I would love some support around. That's the kind of thing that I want you to drop in the chat. Questions, I don't know about comments, but maybe comments. Organize, organization, strategy, business versus personal. Okay. You could go a lot of different ways with that. Anybody else? Questions that you have that are coming up for you? Things that you want support around? Challenges that you're experiencing? This whole entrepreneurial journey is not for the weak, right? So we should definitely be having things that are rumbling from day to day, week to week. Time management. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so how to celebrate my victory without being boastful, even when I feel boastful. Okay. Getting reorganized with scheduling for the new school year. Gotta set another way to not look. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's start by tackling some of the things in the chat. And then should we have time, we'll talk about the other thing that I brought to talk about. Okay, so first question that I want to address is around, and Nicole, if you are able to take yourself off of mute, that would be great. Otherwise, you can talk in the chat. But your question is around organization strategy, business versus personal. Tell me what you mean by that, since you didn't write a actual question. If you can take yourself off mute. Organization and time management, Nifty has a central place, but having trouble, yeah. Nicole, will you drop in the chat if you're able to take yourself off of mute? Otherwise, I'm gonna guess what you meant when you typed this in the chat, which is gonna be hard to do. Nicole going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next person. Second question, how to celebrate my victory without being boastful, even when I feel boastful. Keisha, can you take yourself off mute?
Yes. So oftentimes, and this just may be me personally. So oftentimes well, before I became not a full-time entrepreneur, but before I got heavily involved into entrepreneurship, I would use social media as an outlet. So I would just kind of scroll, take a silly quiz, scroll. So excessive posts can kind of tear at me. Like I have some people on my timeline, oh, I did my child's hair, here's a picture. Oh, I cooked dinner, here's a picture. And it's like, girl, get a life. Get something to do, find a man, do something other. Like everybody got kids, everybody got the first day of school coming up, we all cook, we all eat. Who cares? And I'm excited for, what I've just accomplished. But, it's like, who else cares? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm excited, and I just know how I feel when I see other people post excessively about a thing. It for real drives me up a wall. Like, I'm like done with social media for the day. Like, you done post out too many times for me. But I realized, like, to compete for grants and so forth, I kind of have to be that obnoxious person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. So I'm struggling.
Okay, so I feel like there are 2 separate things happening. So
Okay.
one, this idea, so how many times have you talked about it on social already?
So I did, like, during the last week for my final push for sales. So this is who I am. I'm even annoyed. The council member came, they've tagged me in a picture, and people keep going to the picture commenting. And it's like, okay, that was Saturday. Like, I mean, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Like, maybe because I know some people, you know what I'm saying? And it's not what they're putting out there. And that annoys me. It's like, you liar, shut up. I don't know, but I just can't.
So
I
let
don't,
me ask you specifically, the victory that you're wanting to celebrate, have you already posted that on social?
not me, no.
Okay, so I want you to recognize that we've created a problem that we don't yet have, right? Because what you started by saying is,
Because I know Tamara's gonna make me post it.
well, I want you to be able to recognize what you're saying is, I don't want to post excessively about this because I get annoyed when other people post excessively about their stuff. Well, number one, you're not posting excessively because you ain't posted it at all. You talking yourself out of it before you've even posted it at all. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is, what does excessively mean? Right? You don't necessarily have to answer that right now.
Okay.
But does that mean posting about it twice in 1 week? Does it mean posting about it 17 times in 1 week? Right? Like, define that for yourself so you can stay under whatever that number is, maybe. Okay. Because if you say twice a week, then that's not excessive. You got to get yourself together. Okay. Half the people ain't even seen that post if you posted it twice. That's definitely not excessive. Okay. But I do think defining excessiveness for yourself helps you gauge how many times I'm going to post about this. But really, the underlying thing is, who cares what other people think? The same way that people are posting about their food and their kids and they don't care what you think, they don't care that it's getting on your nerves. That's the same way you have to be around about other people. Who cares whether or not somebody else is annoyed by what's on your feed? Mm-hmm. Right, because guess what? If they don't like it, they can get off of social for the day like you do. They can look at somebody else's feed. They can visit another week, right? I think sometimes where we get hung up is that our attention is so much on ourselves versus the people that we're called to serve, that we tend to get in our own way. It's like, you know what, somebody actually needs to see this, right? And most of us, when it comes to marketing on social media, get on our own nerves. I don't want to talk about the same thing every day. I don't want to keep saying the same, but guess what? Marketing really comes with saying the same thing multiple times. Because
Yes.
in this day and age, people need to hear you and see you. It used to be 7 times. Now we up to like 30. Attention spans is getting smaller and smaller. So while you may be annoyed with yourself and you may be annoyed with other people on your timeline, guess what? Irrelevant. I'm on a mission. I have a calling. And therefore, if that means I got to post about this once a day, every day for the next 5 days, and I'm going to take the weekend off and then I'm going to start again next week, that's what calling is about.
Oh, Lord. Okay. We'll work on it.
Okay. If something else comes up, drop it in the chat if we have time.
I have I've
Okay.
shared, like posts that have come, but I guess that don't count. I mean, I guess it doesn't count because I need to go and like thank people and okay.
I would love to see you make an actual post, and I would love you to tag me in it so I can actually see. Okay. I would like for you to actually make a full post. And here's maybe a even more specific answer to your question. Define for yourself the difference between arrogance and confidence, right? Because sometimes I see things on social that people post and it feels very arrogant to me, right? It might not feel arrogant to the next person, but it feels arrogant to me, right? And if you can understand for yourself, here's what confidence looks like. Here's what standing in my power looks like. Here's where I'm doing too much. Here's where I'm getting a little bit, my ego is doing this thing. If you understand that about yourself, then you can stand in confidence and you can stand in power. You don't have to worry about boastful. And the thing I want everybody to hear is it might feel boastful, doesn't make it is boastful.
Right.
I might feel lonely, doesn't mean I am lonely. Right. So even though it's uncomfortable because I'm not used to celebrating myself, period, or publicly, right? That's okay. The feeling I can do things that feel uncomfortable. I'm capable.
Okay.
Now you sound sad. Like she making me do something I don't really want to do.
I know. I knew Tamara was going, so yeah. All right, I'm gonna work on it.
Okay. Suggestion, do it in the next 24 hours so you don't talk yourself out of it. Okay.
Oh my Lord. Okay.
That's why I said that. Okay, next question. Getting reorganized with scheduling for the new school year, how to stay motivated and not look at the calendar and cry. Okay, here's the good news and the bad news. You probably are going to look at the calendar and cry at times, right? Like one of the things that I think, and I started to talk about this today, we'll see whether this conversation goes that way. But last month we talked about having a lot of ideas and we talked about the things that get in the way around focus and all of that. And one of the things that came up was around expectations of ourselves, right? And this is where we tend to get in our own way, is because we tend to have high expectations of ourselves that don't match our capacity, right? That's a whole conversation we can have around it. If people are interested in that, we can talk about expectations and capacity. But the first thing that I think about when I hear you say, well, how do I stay motivated and not look at the calendar and cry? Well, number one is giving myself permission to cry, giving myself permission to have moments where I'm not motivated, right? Now, I understand that we might be talking about right now, but before I can even jump into here's how we manage it, we first have to be okay that we're human, right? And the call on our life, the work that we have to do is large. Whether I'm a single parent, whether I'm got 4 kids, whether I'm whatever it may be, where we have to start is understanding our own capacity. And that means there will be moments, we don't want it to be seasons, but there will be moments of exhaustion and overwhelm and whatever else, right? So I think step one is just accepting that it will happen before we can even talk about how do I deal with it when it happens. Because I think we get in trouble when we are, let's say we're a month into school and we see the calendar and we cry and now we're beating ourselves up. And it's like, well, the crying isn't the problem. We're allowed to have emotions, right? and we can get better and better at managing those emotions, but we don't want to beat ourselves up just because we're feeling a thing. Okay. The other thing, Rashida, you can also take yourself off mute if I'm not answering your question like directly or the way you meant it.
No, you are.
Okay. Okay. So then the second thing that I would say after I accept that I'm human and this is going to be hard at times, right? Then I would say, okay, where am I feeling overwhelmed and frustrated, right? Already. Okay. Where am I feeling like, and it's like, oh man, my son doing this is bumping up against this and this. And so then we get into problem solving mode, right? And we do that by identifying what is creating the lack of motivation, what is creating the frustration, the fill in the blank, whatever the word is, right? And whatever it is, we start to problem solve that. Because what we tend to do is we feel overwhelmed or frustrated or whatever, and we go into avoidance, right? We go into some kind of unhealthy coping mechanism or just some kind of coping mechanism that doesn't serve us. But typically it looks something like avoidance, right? I get overwhelmed and then I procrastinate. That's an example. Okay. And so what we have to do is I'm starting to feel blank, right? I might need to take a break before I can actually go and solve the problem, right? But ultimately, I got to solve the problem that I see, right? It's like hearing a noise in my car, right? Being annoyed that something is broke and deciding I'm not dealing with that today, which is fine so long as I can come back the next day or the next week and solve the problem. But if I don't, the noise gets louder. The noise now makes a different noise. And now I got a whole different problem because I was frustrated, I was annoyed, I was overwhelmed, and I didn't come back to it. Okay. So the second thing that I would say as it relates to looking at the calendar and starting to feel this is happening again is looking at, okay, what do I need to do differently here? How can I problem solve some of these aspects? Okay. The last thing that I will say, which is more of a time management kind of thing, because I see that in multiple people's questions. So this feels a little bit tricky if I don't know the specific situation. So whether it's Rashida or Taquin or Reese, if any of you want to take yourself off of mute and give me an example of where time management is an issue, I will be able to answer the question more accurately, more directly. Otherwise, I'm gonna give y'all just general tips.
I mean, for me, I know exactly where my time management issue is.
Huh? You want to tell me?
Sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, now I can hear you.
Okay. I know exactly where my time management issue is. It's just because I drive so much that I'm losing 4 hours of my day every day. Other than that, everything is jam packed in. But thank you for sometimes I just need to hear that I can take the space to just not do sometimes because the guilt weighs in because I know I have so much to do that I feel like it always needs to get done.
Well, just so I'm clear, you drive 4 hours a day and that's annoying to you is what I'm hearing?
Well, I drive 4 hours for work, so that takes out a chunk of 4 hours of something that can get done in that 4 hours. So I feel like it's wasting time. And so I have to double back on the back end to do what I could have done within those 4 hours.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant, which is why I wanted to clarify. So part of what I would say is whenever we're frustrated about something, we have to be careful that resentment doesn't creep in, right? Because then that creates a whole different problem. And so I think part of the time management issue in this case is how can I get okay with the 4 hours that I have to spend every day for work or change it, right? And I probably need to be doing both. Even if I can't, let's just say I was going to change it, but I can't change it for 6 months or 2 years or whatever, then there's a level of acceptance that has to happen. So that way I'm not annoyed every time I get in my car or every time I'm getting out of my car or the fact that I think about I got to drive. Some of this is around acceptance and saying, okay, I got 4 hours every day in my car. I don't love that. Okay. That's not my favorite thing about my day. But how do I lean into acceptance? Feels like step one, right? Before we even start talking about time management. Then the other thing that I would say is, how can I maximize the time that I'm in the car, right? Are there things that I can do that will make me feel like I'm not wasting my time? Okay. So here are some examples. One thing that I do is when I wake up in the morning, my devotion is in the bathroom, right? Because I could scroll TikTok, or I could scroll Facebook, or I could do something I ain't supposed to be doing, right? Or I could start my day with Jesus. Okay. Right. So now I'm killing two birds, one stone, right? I walk every day for a mile. Well, let me just, you know, tell the truth. I walk 5 days a week, a mile. Okay. And I've experimented with doing different things while I walk, right? Sometimes I write emails, right? Because I send an email to my list every day or every other day, at least 3 to 5 times a week, right? I listen to podcasts, right? What I want you to be able to identify is, can I double up on a task so that way my time doesn't feel wasted? That's the other thing that I would say. Hopefully that was helpful. When I saw you take yourself off mute, so I want to give you a chance to say what you were going to say.
Oh, you hit on a lot of things with what you've said already. So thank you. I think mine is I got some personal issues that really got me in a funk, and now trying to get out of that.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say without knowing the situation. Personal issues are real. Like, the idea of trying to have something happening in your personal life and still have these kids and still talk about your business, let alone their business, let alone, it's like, what? Why are you expecting me to do that? I can't, right? Like, I just don't want to, right? So the first thing, I mean, that's real life, right? And I think one of the things that I find that people struggle with a lot, which is interesting, is realizing that they're human, right? It's like, I have this expectation of myself that no matter what is going on in my life, I'm on the top of my game. Okay, well, let's change that, because that's not going to happen. Right? Like, that's excluding our humanness, right? Expecting ourselves to be on the top of our game or not feel or whatever is an unrealistic expectation that will come back to bite us, right? Rather than just accepting it and then figuring out what to do with it, right? So it's like, one thing that I would say for anyone who feels like they have, because I think I saw somebody else say something about balancing the personal with business. I want you to always start with grace. Like, I find people have very interesting relationships to grace. And it's like, well, if I give myself grace, then I won't get stuff done. That's not how it works. Right? It's like, if you beat yourself up, you also don't get stuff done. So we want to start with grace because it honors the fact that I'm human. I have this personal thing that's going on, and it is impacting my motivation, my attention, my whatever, to these other things that are important to me. We start with grace. Okay. The other thing that I would say is, well, let me double back and say something else. Grace looks like giving yourself permission to feel what you feel for a season, for a time. I'm gonna make this up, but let's just say that I just had a breakup, because you know how these men do. They'll do something, okay? And that breakup is really getting to me. Maybe it was a 3-year relationship and I thought we was gonna get married, whatever the context is, right? And so now I find myself in a funk, and it's impacting my ability to do X, Y, and Z, right? Maybe help my kids with their business, maybe make the phone calls that I need to make for my own business, whatever. Like, whatever it is, I just don't want to. Okay. Grace looks like, dang, loss is hard. Losing something that was important to me that I thought was going to last is hard. Can I give myself space, a day, a week, or whatever, to actually feel what I feel? Or do I have to push through that too? Because we have a thing about pushing through. And there is a time and a place. Like there is a time where we indeed need to push through. But what I find with many women, particularly Black women, is that there is an automatic push through versus a choosing to push through. The automatic response is, well, I got to push through this. I ain't got time. I can't be. And it's like, well, that's not healthy. Like we want to be in control and to be able to say, is this a time for me to rest? Is this a time for me to give myself grace? Or is this a moment where I need to push through? It might be a time for me to push through, but the fact that it's an automatic response is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have to be able to work through to say, okay, let's just say the breakup happened this morning and I got 3 coaching calls today, guess what? I'm probably going to push through.
Right.
That might be my moment to do so, but I have to choose to do that rather than saying I don't have a choice. Like I have to do it. It's like, no, I got a choice. I could cancel all these calls and reschedule these people. Why? Because I'm not their savior, right? I can still honor my word. Sometimes we have a thing that's so tied to our identity that we don't give ourselves permission to, again, I'm human. So if this thing is really, really this breakup, maybe it's I'm in the middle of a divorce and I got some horrible news this morning and I don't want to bring that energy into my coaching call and I haven't figured out how to shake it. So I am going to cancel. Maybe that's the decision that I'm making. Guess what? I might grieve the fact that I'm not perfect and I can't push through. And I'm also going to cancel calls, reschedule, and trust that everybody is going to work out. It's all going to work itself out. Takwin, I don't know if that's helpful without knowing, your scenario.
No, that's very good. Like I said, I feel like also the summer has been a little chaotic with the boys weren't in summer camp, so they've been here with me for 3 months and I work from home. So that's been a whole circus for 3 months in and of itself. So I can't wait till the 23rd.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I also want to just put this plug in for people who are feeling a level of stress for whatever reason, whether it's the kids at home and I need them to go away, whether it's something else that has happened. How do you, and this is maybe a question that I want everybody to answer in the chat, is how do you know when you need to rest? Like pre the fact that I can't move my body and I'm exhausted, obviously I know then. But are there signs to yourself that tell you I need to rest? How many people, and maybe let me ask a specific question. Do you know the signs for yourself, yes or no, that tell you I need to rest before you feel like you're dying? Will you guys just drop yes or no in the chat? Or does it have to get really bad for me to recognize, oh shoot, I need to rest? Okay, I see sometimes, okay. In the personal development, self-care world, self-care is often massages and relaxation and, some of these more, I don't want to call it woo-woo kind of things. But really self-care is boundaries. Self-care is self-awareness, right? Self-care is the ability to say no. There are all these things that count as, here's how I learned to take care of myself and prioritize myself so that way I can feed the people around me. Because so goes you, so goes your household, right? And I think sometimes we forget that self-care is bigger than just the fun relaxation stuff. Yes, but I don't always heed the sign. That part. Okay. So I see some people saying, yes, I see when I need to rest. I had to maybe get better at actually heeding the signs. But I guess the thing that I was going to say is, if the kids have been home for 3 months and I'm feeling whatever kind of way, exhausted, whatever, can I give myself permission to rest before I jump into the next thing? Whether it's a day, whether it's a half a day, whether it's a weekend, like you decide what is within your means. But I think giving ourselves permission to rest and rejuvenate then allows us to get up and go and do the next thing. It is a trauma response, I agree. Okay. Trying to use Nifty as a central place, but Reese, if you could take yourself off mute. the one thing that I would say without, anytime you're using a software that is like a project management software or something that has to do with the organization and you're new to it, you got to give yourself some time, because trying to find, whether it's Nifty or whether it's, I don't know, ClickUp or Trello or whatever these millions of softwares are, trying to figure out a way to make it work for you is a process. It's like buying a planner and saying, oh, this part works, but this part ain't really doing what I need it to do. Right. So I think maybe the first part of my answer is, what season are you in? Is this the season to learn a new software? Or do I need a more pencil and paper kind of system because I don't have the capacity to be learning a new software? Right. Or do I just need to give myself grace and more time to learn the software? Right. So I am a bit old school in that I still have a paper planner. Right. I function better. I am more productive when I can visually see in a non-electronic form. Right. I will show y'all. No, I am going to show y'all my walls. So this is, I think, one of the things, and this, if this is something you all want to talk about, we can talk about it. But one of the things that I think is valuable, so what I'm doing is just showing you a part of my wall, right? So this is one section of my office, and there are white sheets on the wall because it is how I function, right? I am a visual person, and when I can see things visually, I am more productive. So some of what I'm hearing as I'm listening to these time management and scheduling things comes back to identity, right? And being able to say, well, how do I function best? What works best for me, right? And the more you know that and then accept it, right? Because knowing something and accepting it is two different things, right? But the more you know it and then accept it, then you can tailor things to work for you and increase your own productivity. Right. But I find that a lot of people either don't know themselves or they have not accepted what they have seen. And therefore they're trying to make, round hole square peg. Right. It's like we just keep running into the same problem. So part of my response is learning a new software takes time. And I have to measure that up against the season that I'm in. Do I have the capacity? Is this the time for me to learn this new thing and make it work for me? Or do I need to do it in a different way and put Nifty or another project management system on this is a Q4 goal? Reese, go ahead. I saw you take yourself off mute and then put yourself back on mute because I talk too much.
No. Similar. I think I do better old school pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried so many different ways because I am trying to work with my young mobile and wanting a digital way that we can both easily, be on the team, see what's going on. I've tried different ways to do that and nothing sticks. So I'm just like, okay, Nifty is what has been handed to me.
Huh?
Even if it's not necessarily a way for, I feel like ISIS, like we have a somewhat of a working system as far as like digitally being able to do things together just within the Google suite. But still, as far as like getting organized, I still am lacking that. So I'm like, Nifty is what was given to me, and I'm trying to take it as like, this is what I must use. But you're right, it's gonna take time.
Can you give me an example of something that you're trying to create structure and organization around?
Just seeing everything, like literally like your wall, like if I can like stand in one spot and just see everything, that is helpful to me.
And by everything, do you mean like upcoming things that we have on our calendar, projects that we're working on, things like that?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say that I find it very difficult for the clients that I serve to find a way to see everything electronically at first, right? So one of the things that I would say is, can you start with paper? And as you find a system that works from a visual paper perspective, then it's like, okay, we got calendar stuff we need to get organized around. We got project stuff we need to get organized around. We got, I don't know, sponsorship, like whatever these, and it's like, okay, we're going to move this one thing to electronic. Can we
Okay.
start with moving one thing electronically versus trying to get everything electronic?
Okay. And I think that's kind of how it is happening. It's
Okay.
like organically, I guess. So maybe I just need to embrace that and just continue to work with it.
Well, the other thing that I would offer as a suggestion is whatever software you guys are using, many of them have communities, right? Facebook groups or some kind of community. And I would get in that community and I would ask quality questions. And I would say, listen, I'm trying to do this. Anybody have something that has worked for them, right? Or I don't know where to start. Or like the more quality the question, the better you are likely to get good responses. But whether it's I don't know where to start or whether it's I'm trying to get the system to do this, communities are also a good place to shortcut the figure it out as you go process.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I did look up some YouTube videos, but it seems to just be one like only nifty videos versus like you're saying, I would love like user
Okay.
experiences.
Post on, if they don't have an actual Facebook group, then I might post on Facebook, right? And I might actually post in other project management software groups to say, has anybody tried Nifty? I'm thinking about trying it, right? To just see, to get some dialogue from other people, which is helpful. But I think one also, in addition, is figuring out what do I need this to do, right? If I can figure out what I need this to do, like organization is broad, and it's like, as it relates to the projects that we have, or as it relates to scheduling events or whatever it is, I really need to see this, or I really needed to do this. And as you get clear about that, it will shortcut how much time it takes to actually figure out how to get the system to do that.
Okay.
Okay. I know, got to hang on with these software systems. They are often helpful eventually, but not helpful in the beginning.
Right.
Okay, I think I've answered everything that was in the chat. Anybody else have a question, came in late, did not get a chance to ask, you can take yourself off mute. I appreciate you saying that I struggle with technology, but not the BS. It is often frowned upon, and we don't care about those people. So, anybody going once, going twice? Can you all drop in the chat the one thing that you want to accomplish between now and the next time I see you? So essentially 30 days from now, what's your primary focus for the next 30 days? Feel kind of low, Jesus. Social media visibility. Keisha, can you make that a more specific goal? Like, I would like to post on social media every day, once a day, or I would like to see my engagement increase by 20%. And in order for me to do that, I'm going to post every day. Something that is.
Let's not get crazy with it, Alicia. We're
Right. You're
gonna
right.
let them know I'm for real. I'm just here, maybe once a week.
Okay, let's go back, because once a week ain't it. Right? Can we just talk about what's not a good idea? Okay, maybe I went crazy with the whole 20%. Okay, let's just take that off the table.
All right.
But if we are increasing our visibility, okay, let me say this.
We're gonna say 2 to 3 weeks. That's a
2 to 3
qualitative.
times a week, you mean?
Oh yeah, what did I say? Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. Okay.
Okay. What's the challenge that you have with posting on social consistently?
I think my perfectionist voice gets to me. I feel like like with this, there's so many moving parts to it, so many pictures, so many people to think, and I'm like, I'm going to leave somebody off, or I'm going to forget something. Um, just so many parts. But ultimately, my perfectionist voice is giving me like anxiety about it. And it's just easier for the kids to do it. I'm like, just do it for me. That way I could be like, oh, you forgot this one, or oh, the kids did it. I don't want it to be on me.
Have thoughts. Okay. So, the root of perfectionism is fear. Okay. We could dig into that in another call, but when we procrastinate or when we want something to be the right way, what we're really saying, what is really happening underneath is that I am fearful of something. And what we don't want to do is operate from a place of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I'm not wanting to operate from a place of fear, and yet I know I struggle with this perfectionist thing, then the only thing that overcomes that is action. Right. And so I know it's bad news. I don't have a lot of good news for you today. Okay. I come bearing bad news apparently. But the other thing I would say though is, how can we problem solve this? If my kids are better with social media and it takes me longer or whatever the problem is, can I get my kids to just do my social media for me? Like some of this, I need to step outside my comfort zone and do it. And some of this, I need to recognize that this is not my strength and get somebody else to do it.
Right.
So I would consider both. Do I need to get outside my comfort zone and do this? Or do I need to hire my kids?
So they won't because of my
Maybe not even
perfectionist
hire.
voice. But they
Huh?
won't because of my perfectionist voice. Like even my 21-year-old, he's like, no, you're gonna fuss at me, you're gonna say I messed up something. So like I'm that one that goes
Well,
through everybody's grammatical errors and I'm like, no, you used the wrong there. No, that's not gonna go there. So I'm that person.
so you in your own way is what you're saying.
Probably. That's the Virgo in me I'm
Because
trying to quiet
what
her
I hear you
down.
saying is I can't even hire somebody because they're not gonna do it the way that I
They're
want to.
not gonna do it right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm just gonna have to just go and just do it and just push send. And just say Lachelle, it's Lachelle. It was Lachelle, and yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
I'm here for it. Whatever you need. Okay.
It
I would
wasn't me.
what I would also say is put a disclaimer out there. Listen, you getting ready to see some posts from me. They might have some errors. They might listen, I'm trying to increase my visibility. So put the disclaimer out there so you can take some of that pressure off yourself.
Okay.
Because done is better than perfect.
That's true.
Every time. Yeah, mostly. Organize my 4 hours in the car better. Okay, like it. Complete my move within the next 30 days so I can focus on other aspects. Okay. I want to use my Google Calendar more to help get my life together. Okay. Reese, I would change it to a more specific, tangible goal. Like by the time I see Lachelle again, I will have organized this part of my life, which includes me using Google Calendar. Right. So now you can say, yes, I did it, or no, I didn't. Right. Because there's a good chance that in 30 days, your life will not be together. Right. It's like, oh, it's more together than it was when I saw her. But, getting your life together is a process. So I would say when you're setting a goal for yourself, make it clear, specific, tangible. Right. I want to do this thing, which means I'm going to be doing this other thing. Right. My goal is to increase my visibility. And in order to do that, I will be posting once a day for the next, 30 days. Pre-launch, August 28th, so pre-launch. Okay, at least one and pitch one organization. Okay. I will plan my house, use my evenings during the week on Sundays and follow the plan. Okay, I like that. That feels very specific. Very, very specific. Okay, so one of the things that I would love to hear from you all is the format of this call. So I'm always going to come with something to talk about based on things that I've heard you all say in previous calls, or based on maybe things that other people have said. Like I'm always going to come with something, but I like to be able to address the things that are happening in real time. So what I would love, but I want these calls to be tailored in the way that works for you all. So we got two choices. Option one, right? And you guys can drop 1 or 2 in the chat to tell me what your preference is, and you can also take yourself off mute, okay? Option number one is that I spend, let's say, the first 15 minutes of the call. It might be longer. That's the tricky part. Let's say I spent 30 minutes of the call, which would be more teaching, like more focused on the actual topic, right? Like fear of failure or imposter syndrome or whatever the thing is, right? And then the second half would be Q&A about whatever it is that you want to talk about, right? Now, to be clear, the first half is still going to be very back and forth, right? Because these calls are not designed for me to come in and teach you a bunch of new stuff, right? So even in the 30 minutes that I would be focusing on a topic, I would still be asking you questions. We would still be engaging, but we would be talking about something very specific, okay? So that's option number one, topic the first 30 minutes, free for all the next 30 minutes, which is essentially what we did here, right? Option number two is that this is strictly Q&A, right? And we talk about what is pressing, like basically what we did today. Everybody comes in, they drop the questions that feel pressing to them. Here's what I'm struggling with. And we work through all of them during the call, right? So my question for you all is, which would feel more valuable to you? Is it option one or is it option two? And you can also take I want you to drop it in the chat, but if you want to add something, you can also take yourself off mute.
I think two is kind of what we do on Thursday on our mastermind call. We kind of address pressing issues and hot seat to kind of get free fall information from the other brilliant minds.
Mm-hmm. The only difference is this is designed to be a mindset call, so we would not. Now we talked about some time management stuff, but Thursday is designed to be all business,
Mm-hmm.
right? Strategy, marketing, sales, whatever. And this is designed to be mindset. So
Okay.
you can have the same format if you like the same format. Okay. So I'm seeing all ones so far. Okay. But could we rotate months? Tell me what you mean, Rashida, about rotating months.
So, like how the call was today, maybe next month then is like option one. And then the next month it could be how the call was today. So rotating months. Because I think this was very valuable. And I think, the mindset pieces did come organically out of the things that people put in the chat. So, I don't know. I like both options. So if we do both flip-flopping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe alternating.
Y'all gonna stretch me because I'm not good at the alternating. It's gonna be this way. No, okay. So
Agree.
I need to sit with it because in real life I don't want to do that. Doesn't mean we can't. Okay. But for my brain, I work better with here's how we're gonna structure the calls. So I'm gonna say maybe, right? Just realize that option one comes with Q&A at the second part, because I'm not going to teach a whole hour, right? That's not going to never happen. That's not the goal of these calls. But in that second hour, we would still be doing the same Q&A. It's just a matter of how much we would get through based on, how many people ask the question. So I would like to start with option one, since it looks like that's what the majority of people want. And let's just test it and see. And if not, we'll come up with something else. But could we rotate them? That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. All right. One takeaway before we get off. What's something that you can take from what we said, something that somebody else said on the call that you can implement, or is a good reminder for you? You can drop it in the chat or you can take yourself off mute. One takeaway. I feel like this is a question that tomorrow's going to ask you, so I'm just warming y'all up because I know she likes to ask takeaway questions. So
I say determine what's creating my overwhelm and frustration and problem solve from there.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything coming up for you? Talked a lot around time management. We talked around, girl, I don't know what we talked about. I really don't. We talked about a lot of stuff, I suppose. Giving ourselves grace. We talked about, how
For
to
me,
oh, go ahead.
it would be because I'm pretty heavy on the tangible self-care,
Okay.
but establishing those boundaries, and I mean hard boundaries. I'm not consistent, so I struggle as a result of that. So like today I was like, all right, I got a meeting by, and I'm literally pushing the kids away.
Mm.
But it's not, I can't do that just for me to make my post. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
I don't think enough of that to say, I need this time because I can't process with you all fighting, running, screaming, and doing to do this. So just that consistency and realizing that that is a form of self-care.
100%.
For me, it's, the opportunity to give myself grace,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay.
Mm-hmm. It is good. Yes.
For me, it's the grace part as well, with just feeling overwhelmed, being able to step back and just kind of take that break, understanding that these moments are gonna happen, like you said. Don't let it be a season, but give myself the grace to be able to bounce back to what I need. Yeah, and for me, I was torn between the two. That's why I didn't put the option. So I guess I'm in that mix of flip flop
Okay.
in terms of the way for the session.
Okay. I'm making a mental note of my flip floppers.
Nicole, was your question answered? Because when she called you, you weren't there. But I don't know if it was answered through okay.
It was answered to a degree, and then as we got into Nifty as an organization tool, my question was kind of around that, because in a sense, I was getting confused with being organized. It just wasn't hitting on much for me, but it kind of felt good that it wasn't just me, it was somebody else. So it was, I was overthinking and I was feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing. But so just hearing other people and some of those strategies, because that's what I do for apps. Go to those YouTube channels and watch the YouTube video. So I'll look into that as well.
The
Okay,
thing that
sorry, Lachelle, this is your group. I'm sorry.
girl, I appreciate it. I'm not mad at, listen, I don't get offended. I mean, sometimes
Thank you, both of y'all. Thank you.
it's rare. The one thing that I will also say is that as you listen to other people and challenges, also mastermind with each other. It's like, listen, if it's 4 of us struggling with Nifty, would it be helpful for us to spend a Saturday morning for 2 hours? Or would it be like, think about how you can leverage the community to support you when you feel like other people are having a similar challenge. All right. I will see you all in a month. Onward and upward. I don't know if you guys have suggestions on what you want me to start with, since we're doing topic. Don't drop it here because the Zoom is going to go away. The chat's going to go away. But inside of the app that everybody is in, I'll have tomorrow make a thread that just is, here's some mindset topics that I would love to talk about. I'm always paying attention to what comes up. So I have my own list, but I'm gonna prioritize what you all what you all write. So you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you all in a few weeks.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.
All right.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, Michelle.
Welcome.